Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, fibre broadband is a critical infrastructural asset for many Irish businesses, and with its increased availability throughout the country, more and more companies are now able to realise their specific digital transformation goals. Seán Dervan is Head of Business Development with SIRO, and he joins us now to tell us about its fibre broadband offering and how it can benefit businesses in Wexford and the South East. Seán, I'd like to start by getting a whistle-stop tour of your own career within the telecom sector.
Good morning to you, Karl. Great to be here. I've been in the fixed telecoms market for a long time, and then with a couple of other companies after I departed from Air, and subsequently then to a brand new telecoms company, which was SIRO.
Talk to us about SIRO, because it's a joint venture vehicle, isn't it?
It's a joint venture that was formed in May 2015, so we're just over 8 years old. We're an open access wholesale broadband operator. This means that we design, operate, build and maintain a full fibre broadband network across Ireland. However, we don't sell to the end user, the business owner or the residents. We sell and resell through our network of retailers who provide broadband services to end user customers, homes and businesses.
So how does it actually work?
So if I was entering a commercial premises or a residential premises, we'd look at the ESB infrastructure going in there. We know and can assume safely that there's energised electricity cables serving the building for light and energy and heat. And we typically follow the access route into that building, be it underground or overhead. Now, it's mostly underground. Electricity cables will travel in an open duct beneath the surface of the ground, and we're able to rod a fibre duct in through that service entry and enter the building, usually into a commercial building, into the meter room or into the plant room.
So since SIRO entered the market in 2015, how many premises across the country have accessed its network?
Well, only recently we passed a very important milestone, and that was 500,000 premises. And for us, that's a really proud moment for us, and it's a very important milestone insofar as SIRO is now available across the 26 counties of Ireland. We're available in 130 towns and cities, which means now that we've brought choice and competition to the Irish broadband market.
We've looked at the countrywide figures. How does that equate then when we look at County Wexford?
In the county of Wexford, it equates to probably around 24,000 premises.
And how successful itself then has the National Broadband Plan been, in your opinion?
It's hugely successful. You know, we anticipate that in 4 to 5 years' time, there will be omnipresence of fibre broadband in Ireland. So NBI are doing their share out of the government-designated areas of Ireland. SIRO is doing its piece, and the other operators are rolling out across the other areas of Ireland themselves. So, you know, the consumer in Ireland is going to be in a very, very good position to get fibre broadband, no matter where it is that they live. And particularly in recent times since COVID, where people now routinely work remotely, that's a really, really good and positive change for Ireland.
One of the common concerns that I hear from business owners across the county is that there's no shortage of high-speed options when it comes to broadband within the towns themselves. But the further outside the towns you get, the lack of options that are available.
Yes, and that has been the problem. That has been the problem for sure. And I think, you know, it was an indefinite amount of time, but now there's a firm fixture on the time that that's going to change. And NBI and others are rolling out into that area. SIRO, for our part, we're a more urban broadband. We work in the towns of Wexford and Gorey and the more urbanised areas. But I do take that point that it can be frustrating for businesses that are located out in the countryside, and they see their peer organisations operating with much better services. That is going to change in a defined amount of time now.
And what is that defined amount of time?
Well, look, I can't speak for all of the areas, and I can't speak on behalf of NBI for the rollout, but we can see that areas outside of towns across Ireland, in rural Ireland, are now getting service of fibre broadband. Only recently myself, I lived in a rural area in County Kildare, and we had a gigabit fibre there made 3 years ago, made available. And, you know, I was between Naas and Dublin there, 6 miles to Naas, 5 miles to Blessington, in quite a rural area. So it is happening.
And I know that many businesses over the past 10 to 15 years would have felt it necessary to have a second broadband connection coming into their business. Where are we with that now, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question, Karl. For larger enterprises, the ability to have a secondary connection is almost routine because they're risk averse. They have a desire to always be connected, so they enjoy the idea of having what's called business continuity or disaster recovery measures in place. And SIRO provides a really excellent service to that, because we enter through the electricity infrastructure, which is different from any of the other comms points. So larger organisations really enjoy having that second connection there. They see it as a necessity, and they see it as a reality situation for protecting their business. But for smaller SME-type businesses, not so much a requirement. They want a dependable, always-on broadband that is high speed and will serve them at an affordable monthly cost, and will be dependable across the entire year.
What type of complications does SIRO come across when working within town centres like Wexford?
Sometimes we come across the complications of road opening licences. Typically speaking, we overcome the situations and we work very, very in close harmony with the local authorities. But from time to time, there may be complications relating to road opening licence, where there's a very, very busy thoroughfare, or where there may be a change of infrastructure. It varies. It's very much the exception rather than the rule, Karl.
Whilst you're piggybacking the ESB infrastructure, is that not very dated infrastructure today, and does that actually cause any challenge for SIRO?
Your question is very valid, because in advance of SIRO entering into a town and choosing a town, ESB networks themselves will have refreshed and made ready for the fibre network to be enabled in the town. So there will be a certain amount of restorative work and made ready work done by ESB in advance of SIRO arriving.
And what are the main reasons why more businesses in Ireland and in Wexford and right across the country are not turning to fibre already?
You know something, that's a golden key answer, but I suspect that not all of them are ready to make the change. Some of the businesses haven't arrived at the decision point yet to adapt to new software, where they will absolutely need to use cloud services, and by proxy of that, they will need to have very good upload speed to the cloud. They're not ready to make the decision yet, but many of them have. And I speak mostly about professional practices such as accountancy practices, legal practices, engineering especially. They've all acknowledged that cloud services and moving away from a local server is the way to go. And the broadband is the hinge point between that new technology and that new world.
And Seán, what advice have you got for any business owner that is yet to move to the cloud or make that digital investment?
I would say for the enterprise company that has its own IT function, I think they're safe enough, because their IT guys understand this market and they research and they understand what's happening. For the smaller SME guy in Wexford Town, in Gorey, Enniscorthy, or any of them, take the advice of your local IT advisor. They'll understand your business needs. They understand more closely than anybody what your challenges are, and they will point you in the right direction. These guys are the guys who they guide business owners towards a new software platform. They guide them towards the new direction of voice over IP and all of that new technology. And that's the voice that business owners should most closely listen to in terms of, should I move to fibre to the premises broadband or not? Is it time to move?
From a practical perspective, what's involved in a business moving to fibre, and what are the indicative timelines involved?
Well, from SIRO's point of view, for the small, enterprise business on the main street, let's talk about the footfall area of small towns like Gorey, or, the very busy, dense area where you'll have your dental practice, you'll have your auctioneering practice. We offer an SME package for there, and that's typically about 7 to 10 work days for an installation to happen. For an enterprise package and for a larger business premises, it involves us going down to do a survey and all that. And we talk about typically about 4 to 6 weeks lead time.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Seán Dervan, Head of Business Development with SIRO, and I'd like to thank Seán for joining us on this morning's show.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.